What's up, Zox fan? We're back with some more Etheria Restart. Appreciate you guys for tuning in today. I'm sending you guys a ton of positive vibes, and if it has not been that great, I hope that your day gets much better. We have a lot to get into in today's video. We're going to be diving into matrices and matrix effects. This is also known as the gear set bonuses or gear, right? It's very simple. I have to say that the gear sets have definitely impressed me. It's really, considering that they are trying to emphasize PvP in this game, it's really refreshing to see that they really have so much accessibility and diversity to what you can essentially do while still maintaining certain stat baselines for you to be able to hit those values so that your character is able to perform properly. And this is really going to open up the door for you to be able to build things and honestly the way that you want to for the piece of content that you're trying to, essentially do. We're going to be starting out with the attack type matrices. Onslaught is going to be our first set. This is going to be one of the first sets that you encounter. It is going to be at a 4 set attack percent 10%, at an 8 set 25% attack, and at a 12 set 45% attack. So very simple, very straightforward. A lot of the times going to go on your damage dealers. Now you also have your harvest set. So the harvest set is a little bit different. So at a 4 set it's an attack of 10%, but at an 8 set you get an attack of 10%, but then when stacking, if the target's HP is above 50%, you additionally ignore 30% of their defense. That's kind of crazy, right? Now you also have the rage set, which again, the 4 set is 10% attack, and then the 8 set is a attack percent increase of 10%. And when an Animus, which is basically a character, scores a crit, the damage result of that segment is further increased by 12%. This is a crit based, kind of like set essentially, but it's basically, I guess, kind of giving you a bonus effect for critting. When you look at momentum is now stepping into the crit realm, where at a 6 set you have crit rate plus 12%, but then on a 12 set you have that same crit rate, but then when attacking, for each debuff or control effect on the target, damage is increased by 6% up to a maximum of 30%. Now this is on Aurora, so this is a little bit of a harder boss, but nonetheless, it is definitely a very fun gear set. Now you have Keen Eye, which is going to be a crit damage set. So crit damage plus 18% on a 6 bonus. And then on a 12, you have that same crit damage. But then the first 3 instances of damage dealt by a character or an Animus during the turn are increased by 25, 15, and 5% respectively. This is something that also, if I'm not mistaken, does stay on the character permanently throughout the duration of the fight. So you get that 25% buff, 15, and then 5. Lastly here, we have the Fury Edge, which is just a 6 bonus set where you get a straight up 12% crit rate and 20% crit damage. Very important to note that this is a 6 bonus, and you kind of get the idea here that a lot of the sets are basically 4-8-12, or it's 4-8, or it's 6-12, or is 6. Now, if we go into the life healing type, right, we have Wellspring, which is going to be your generic, just kind of basic starter gear set, which is going to be at a 4 set 10% HP. On your 8 set is 25% HP, and on a 12 set it's 45% HP. You also then have Cure. So Cure gives you a 10% HP increase on a 4 set, and then on an 8 set you have the healing effect being added, which increases it by 20%. With the last one here, Evo Guard, this is going to be giving you a cure effect of 12% and an effect res increase of 20%. Now, I will say this gear specifically is like endgame, right? You're not going to be touching this gear anytime soon. My account isn't even there yet, right? So yeah, this is gear that you just don't get yet. Yeah, but when you do, it is going to be pretty valuable because it does give you those straight up like values, right? You also have the defense shield. Oh, go back. Defense shield, which will start off with the Unbreakable, which at a 4 set is 10% defense, 8 is 25% defense, and a 12 bonus is 45% defense. You also have the Bramble, which is going to be at a 4 set 10% defense increase. Then on the 8 set, you're going to have it adding an Animus has a 25% chance to counterattack with a casual attack after being hit. So this basically is what you would call your counter set. Is you want to really kind of call it that, right? The Bloodbath is going to be giving you an effect res increase on a 6 bonus of 18%. And then at 12, you still maintain that effect res. Then when the accumulated damage received within a turn exceeds 20% of max HP, the excess damage is further reduced by 60%. So this is a really good set when you're kind of thinking in mind of like maybe potentially going up against characters that like to nuke your character. This could help mitigate some of that effect, right? Which again, 60% being further reduced on a hit that takes 20% max HP is really insane. The very last set here is the Colossus Guard, and this is going to be a straight up 25% defense increase and effect res increase of 20% on a 6 bonus. So Swift Rush is one of the first speed bonus sets that you'll see in the game. 4 set gives you a speed value increase of 8%, 8 gives you a speed value of 20%, and 12 gives you a speed value of 35%. Bulwark is going to be an immunity set, so 4 set gives you a 10% HP increase, and an 8 set gives you a HP increase of 10%, and then at the start of each wave you gain immunity for 1 turn. Probably going to be really good for certain bosses, really good probably more than likely in PvP, just so that you can try to mitigate certain effects. Again, that's going to vary based off of if somebody counters that with like a Dispel, AoE, so it just all really depends. Then you have the Strive, which is going to be a 10% on the 4 set bonus. 8 is going to be giving you a 10% defense bonus, but then after being attacked, you increase your action bar by 10%. I think that this might be every single time you get hit, because 10% is not crazy. That means you would have to be hit a total of 10 times in order for this to give you a 100% action bar, which I feel like respectively so is quite a bit. I'll have to double check on if this applies to being multi-hit or if it's just for each individual starting hit. So this is definitely a set that's going to probably have to be tested, because it could probably get abused if you just build super tanky units and then have them built like that, right? So again, they might have to revisit that one. Time Weave, which is an effect accuracy set. So effect accuracy 6 bonus is going to be 18%. And then on a 12, it adds the effect at the start of a turn. There's a 35% chance to reduce the cooldown of all Animus skills by 1 turn. So it's very similar, and what reminds me of something in Dislight. It's called the Ocean Wave set, and it's basically a really good filter set to help out when you have a lack of cooldown capabilities, which is going to heavily correlate to skill investment, right? So that's really, really important there. Then lastly here, you have the Swift Raid, which is going to be a straight up 15% speed and an attack increase of 20%. We have our very last section here, which is the special control type. Battle Wheel is going to be an attack increase of 10% on a 4 set bonus. On an 8 set bonus, is going to give you that 10%, but then it also makes it to where an Animus has a 20% chance to follow up on the main target after using an attack skill. So again, it's basically a follow-up set. So it's basically you hit and then you have that proc chance to come back with another hit. Kind of is insane if that procs, right? Now you have the Ether Plague as well, which is a straight up HP increase of 25% and effect accuracy of 20%, which is really disgusting. And then the Swift Smite, which is going to be a 6 bonus where you get speed 15% with effect accuracy of 20. So these are all in-game that you'll end up, having access to later on your progression, but they're really, really good set bonuses. So not too crazy, not too complex. I feel like the sets are pretty straightforward, and I would say honestly, they're pretty simple to digest and understand. This is essentially, like I said, the overall sets in the game. I want to dive into something a little bit more like in detail, just so that you guys have an understanding of the gear itself, and just like rolling it. Like I said, I'm going to have a more comprehensive guide when it comes to gear, because gear itself is going to be just a battle uphill for a lot of players, especially if they're a lot more casual. But if we go to the Ether module here, where you have your, essentially your matrices, what you have here essentially, and what you'll see in the very beginning of the game, is anywhere from a piece of gear that'll have, or a matrix that'll have just 1 matrix effect on it, right? And then they will start appearing to have 2 matrix effects, right? And then as you get deeper into the game, I'm at the point now where I'm able to get gear that has 3 matrix effects, right? So let me see if I can find a piece, right? So right here, this has 3 Time Weave bonus piece sets on it. So that means essentially that in each slot, so it could go all the way up to 3, which that means you could have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, right? Now, granted, you're capped at 12 for most sets, or you're capped at 6. So you would never like have a full set essentially for 1 matrix where it's just all of 1 symbol at that 3 stack, right? Because at 2, for example, you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You would have every single slot fitted with that 1 symbol if you were trying to build towards that set. Now, it is a combination of the pet, but I will say, or the shell, but I'm gonna have a separate video for the shell, because the shell has its own complexities and I don't want to mix the 2. That's just to kind of give you an understanding, is that between the gear and the shells, you're going to be mixing your build from there. You can get the matrix bonuses as well on your shells, which I'll reiterate that in the next video, but you could basically essentially combine that and your matrices or your modules to be able to create those sets for yourself, right? Now, the thing is that when you're also looking at gear, the other thing that's pretty typical with most gear, and I'll show you a piece that doesn't have it, you basically have the opportunity to unlock anywhere from an additional 3 to an additional 1 additional substat, right? And you roll each piece of gear. So it starts at 3, then goes 6, 9, 12, 15, right? So you have 5 roll opportunities. Keep in mind that every time you unlock a substat, that takes away a roll opportunity, right? So if you're unlocking 3 substats, that means you can only roll into one of the stats that are already there on the piece of gear 2 times. So this is going to be the early game kind of mentality or understanding, is that you're not going to have high rolls and subs just because you're not going to have a whole bunch of subs already pre-unlocked. Now, if we go, for example, and we look at one of my pieces that's on the time weave that has the 3 set, this one, for example, this one is what you would call I would just call it a perfect piece. And not in the sense that the stats are actually like perfect, which actually these stats are actually pretty good. But the reason why that is that you essentially have the opportunity to roll into a piece like this 5 times because all 4 of the stats are already here. For example, if we look at like this one where there's already 3 stats, you still have to take away one of your rolls and then you'd be able to roll into this piece 4 times, right? So still a very solid piece, but you don't have that highest potential roll, right? And this is just what kind of comes with these types of games. It's very simple if you've played these types of games before, but for those of you guys that are being introduced to this for the first time, I just wanted to kind of give you that generalized mentality there, right? So again, it's very, very simple how they have it set up. You can see all your matrix effects right here, what you have going on. And this is really going to be important for you to master and understand, because it's going to be creating your generalized baselines for your gear, and really understanding what you're able to get from your matrix effects is going to then determine and help you understand what you might need for your substats, right? But again, substats are going to be like huge variant because it's going to be very important to the unit that you're specifically working on, not so much to, just to generalize, this is how you just equip all units. Every unit is different and requires different things. You basically have all those values and all those things, to kind of consider out of the way. So that basically is what your matrix effects are bringing to the table. I think that that's actually enough information in one video. I know that's actually a lot to dump, but again, this is just a overview of the system itself. I'm interested to see how you guys feel about it. Like I said, I personally feel like it's a lot of diversity and openness to it, but are there things that you feel like could be potentially better with it? Or do you feel like you like it too, or you can't wait to try it out? Let me know in the comment section down below. Everyone, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any Etheria Restart content. I want to make sure that you guys are really understanding these systems and you're going along the process with us as we are testing and we're figuring out these different mechanics, because it's been an absolute blast. So that's going to be basically that with this one, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.